And let me mute everyone. What I'd like you to do once you're settled lying down is to have 2 or 3 big sighing breaths. So just a couple of big exhalations. And so particularly if, like Emma, you've had a day of far too much laptop and Zoom, you can just start to let some of that go, or whatever your day has held. This is just a chance now to put all that to one side, to start to hopefully, release our bodies and, relax, feel better. So maybe one more big sighing breath, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And if your legs are long, just give them a little bit of a roll. And then you're going to bend your, that's it, that's nice. So if your legs are long, give them a little bit of a roll. If your knees are bent, stay where you are, because in a moment, if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. That's it. So knees bent, feet standing on the floor. The socks could stay on, Beata, if you wanted to keep them on for the moment. It's up to you. So if you're warm enough, then that's fine. So once you've bent your knees and you've stood your feet on the floor, you're then going to fold your right knee in towards your chest and just hold around the top of your right knee and have a couple of cycles of breath there. So as the breath comes in, just receiving your inhalation. As you exhale, you might feel that your knee can settle a little bit more closely towards your chest. But obviously without pulling on the knee, just keeping it easy, keeping it comfortable. Good. And then what you're going to do from here is you're going to lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. So you're going to lengthen your right leg up towards the ceiling. Jan, just sort of, take care with this. You can give the leg a little bit of a shake. And you can also hold your hands around the back of your leg, probably around the back of your thigh or around the back of your calf. It just depends what's most comfortable. So you're supporting your leg, holding around the back of your leg. And you could do a little bit of just pointing your toes and pointing your heel. And you can then alternate a bit more shaking. Just see how it feels to have that leg up there. And it's, the leg is as bent or as straight as you like. And holding around the back of the leg in some way. Good. And then just give that leg a little bit of a shake. And then fold it back in towards your chest and still keep that right knee folded into your chest. And what you're going to do is lengthen your left leg out on the floor. So just let the right leg relax now for a moment. The right knee is bent in towards your chest. You've lengthened your left leg out on the floor. Let the left leg feel long and heavy. And then again, you're going to lengthen your right leg up towards the ceiling, this time with the left leg long on the floor. Jan, if that's not so good for your lower back, then obviously bend your left knee. And then again, the same thing, hold around the back of your right leg, maybe around the back of the thigh, around the back of the calf or the back of the knee. You can give the leg a little shake. You could circle your ankle. That's quite nice to do when we're upside down. So just whatever feels good. Cat joining in, Beata, that's always like that. Very nice, very cute, fluffy tail. And then from there, you're going to just gently bring that leg back down and lengthen out both legs on the floor for a moment. And if that's not so good for you, you don't need to stay with your legs long. In fact, you're all going to bend your knees in a moment. But Jan, if it's better for you to have your knees bent, then do that. So when you've lengthened out your legs, give them a little bit of a roll, give them a little bit of a bounce. Good. And then we're going to do the same things on the other side. So if you bend both knees to start with, that's it, settle your feet on the floor, and then fold your left knee into your chest. So you've got your right foot, your right knee bent, your right foot standing on the floor, your left knee folded into your chest. And then again, when you're ready, you can lengthen your left leg up towards the ceiling. You can hold around the back of your thigh. You can give the leg a little shake. You can do a bit of that, so it's circling the ankle, pointing the heel, pointing the toes. And just remember that you can have the leg as bent or as straight as you like. And then from there, give yourself a little breather by folding that left knee back in towards your chest. And then lengthen your right leg out on the floor. Maybe just roll your right leg for a moment or bounce the knee so the right leg settles down now, long on the ground. And then you can lengthen your left leg back up towards the ceiling, holding around the back of your leg. And if it's comfortable, you can, hold higher up your leg. If you're someone who can easily catch your big toe or your ankle, you could try that. Just sort of see where it's helpful to catch your leg. And again, you can be shaking the leg, you can be circling the ankle, you can be pointing the toe and the heel. And it's always nice to have the legs up whenever you've had enough. Just fold that leg back down, lengthen both legs out on the floor. Yeah, so again, if it's comfortable, lie with both legs long for a moment. You can roll your legs, you can bounce your knees. Good. And then you're going to bend both knees and stand your feet on the floor. And come to letting your knees now tilt to the right and to the left. Yes, good idea, Maria, to move the drink out of the way. So good, that's very nice. Knees tilting to the right and to the left. And just seeing how this feels. And Jan, obviously keep it sort of small, keep it gentle if you are feeling a bit creaky around your pelvis and lower back. Very nice. A couple more times from side to side. Good. And then what I'd like you to do is pause in the centre. We're going to do a little bit more of this, but what you're going to do first is you're going to give yourself a hug so that you cross your arms over your chest. Oh, not that. We always get confused here, don't we, Emma? So you're going to keep your feet on the floor. You're going to give yourself a hug with your arms and cross them over your chest. And now what you're going to do is let your elbows and your knees and your head all rock in the same direction. So you're going to rock across the back of your body. That's it. So the elbows, good. The head, good. The knees. Lovely. So you're rocking across the whole of the back of your body. And again, Jan, you can keep it small. You don't have to go too far with this. So just do something that feels enjoyable and nice for you at this point in time. So we're giving ourselves a little bit of a massage by rolling across the back of our body, and we're just doing what feels good for ourselves right now. And then what I'd like you to do, if it's possible, and Jan, just do whatever works for you, is see if you can rock yourself all the way over onto one side. You don't need to keep your arms crossed, and just have a couple of breaths on your side. And then we will be coming over onto hands and knees. Here was I thinking it's almost so much lighter in my room, but I'm not sure that it is. Might be Zoom doing funny things again. So come onto hands and knees and settle yourself down. And we're just going to do some cat movements and some tail wagging here. So just a few more movements that are really about getting ourselves moving, releasing tensions. So when you're ready, settle on hands and knees. And start your cat movements. So start rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine to the floor, and using these movements to check in with yourself. So how does your body feel? So when you round your back to the ceiling, how does the lower back feel? How does the back of your neck feel? Can you let your head release? And when you dip your spine down to the floor again, how does your spine feel? Can you make sure the movement is, enjoyable. You're not pushing anything. You're just trying to find a sort of fluid, easy movement. And whenever you want to swap and do a little bit of tail wagging, you could do that. So when we're doing our tail wagging, we take our awareness into our pelvis. We imagine we have a dog's tail or a beautiful fish's tail, and we're trying to wag and swish our tail from side to side. And as we do this, actually what we're doing is shortening through one side of our body and lengthening through the other. That's another way to think about it. Our pelvis is moving nearer towards our shoulder on one side and then the other. What I'd like you to do is come back to a couple of cycles of cat. They're grounding and dipping. We're going to have a couple of breaths in child pose just to take the weight off the hands, and then we're going to come into dog and up into standing. So let yourself round up in child and then rock your hips back, round up in cat and then rock your hips back over your heels and into child pose. And just, see how it feels to be in child pose for a few breaths. And it might be that you just let yourself settle. You feel the contact of your forehead on the ground. Feel the movement of your breath in your body. And in your own time, when you've had enough time in child pose, you're going to come back onto hands and knees. You're going to settle your hands on the floor so we can come into dog pose, and there will be more dog pose later on. We're just going to do one dog pose now that will take us up into. And so actually, I think we'll do one dog pose now. So hands and knees, tuck your toes under. As you exhale, rock your hips back over your heels, pick your knees up off the floor, and just see how dog pose feels on this Thursday evening. So yeah, it's very nice. So that's it. Really nice planted hands. Let the shoulders soften as much as you can. Bending the knees. Good. Very nice. Lovely. So very nice. Good. So you can have another couple of breaths in dog, depending how it feels. And from dog pose, when you're ready to move on, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet, coming into a forward bend. And when you end up in your forward bend, if your lower back, and Jan, you may need to do this particularly, if your lower back needs some support, you're going to bring your elbows to rest on your thighs, so bending your knees. And wherever you are in your forward bend, let your head go. So we have this lovely opportunity to let the back of the neck really release, which is so important, particularly if we've been stuck on in front of a screen. Big exhalation in your forward bend. Let a breath come in, and then we roll up into standing or walk your hands up the front of your legs if your lower back needs that support. So we end up, that's it, all the way up in standing. And Jan, I hope you're doing okay. What we're going to do, I think, to start with is something that's quite good for the lower back and the pelvis, which is to bend our knees and to try and just give our pelvis a bit of a gentle wiggle in standing to help the pelvis settle. So it is, I've been doing this a bit this week because my lower back must have been a bit creaky. So it's bending the knees, just trying to wiggle the pelvis a little bit from side to side. So it's a bit like we do on our bellies sometime. And it's just this feeling, can we release the pelvis and then can we settle in standing and see how we feel for a moment. Maybe bring your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest and just take a moment to arrive in standing, feeling the contact of your hands, feeling the contact of your footprints on the floor. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, maybe for a moment, close your eyes and feel a breath come in and feel a breath leave you. And then opening your eyes, let a breath come in. As a breath leaves you, take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in, and then as you exhale and carry on breathing, you're going to swing your arms, crossing them in front of your chest. That's it. So just really try and let the arms hang from the shoulders. And so again, if you've been doing a lot of computer work, it's just very nice to let the arms release. Good. Yeah, so when I do this, I alternate how I'm crossing. I cross one arm in front and then the other. Okay, let the arms slowly come to cease their movement. So they're hanging by your sides. And we're then going to come on into our swinging twist where all of us moves now. So we're swinging our arms. We've hopefully got lots of space around us. That's very nice. Good. Swinging our arms, slapping the hands onto our body. Lovely. So this movement where we can feel all of ourselves involved in the movement. We can go as fast or as slow as we like. And obviously we don't want to make ourselves dizzy. Good, a couple more times. And then once more, just letting that go, coming back to the arms hanging, the feet settling on the ground. And again, come back to your hands being in prayer pose in front of you. Come back to feeling the movement of your breath in your body. So one of my sort of themes today, particularly in standing, is this sort of movement and breathing, which I suppose is two of the key things in yoga. So from here, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up again. And start to come into this one where we're reaching up through one arm and then the other. And again, yes, Jan, you might want to take this easy, just see how you feel. I mean, so in this one, I really like to shift my weight. So as I reach up, I'm shifting my weight into the same leg as the reaching arm. So a couple more times. Let's reach from side to side. We'll release the arms for a moment and then we'll come back and do a slightly different version. So let your arms come down. So I know sometimes it's not everyone's favourite thing, having our arms up. And then you can swing your arms back up again. And so this time, as you reach up through one arm, so I'm reaching up through my right arm, and then catching my right wrist with my left hand. And I'm drawing myself up and over towards the left. So the whole right side of the body is lengthening out. And I'm letting my pelvis and my weight shift to the right. And then you can come back to the centre and swap sides. So the right hand catches around the left wrist. And again, up and over towards the right. Lengthening out through the side of the body. Good. Okay. Give the arms a little shake out. And then when you come down, just let yourself go straight down into a forward bend. Letting your head go. Rest your elbows on your thighs. That's it, Jan. Well done. Good. Let your head go still. Lovely. Down in your forward bend. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you. And then as you exhale, sink down into your heels, roll up into standing, or walk your hands up the fronts of your thighs. Good. Have a little shake out. And we're starting to do a few balancy things, but first of all, two feet. So Jan, you should be fine. So what I'd like you to do is come back to that one where we were bending our knees and just giving our pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. So come back to that one. And then this time, from this bent knee position, you're going to let your knees straighten but not lock and shift your weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. So you come up to balance on the balls of both feet. And just repeat this a couple of times. So when you come back down, you can, again, bend your knees, give your pelvis a wiggle if you like. Come up onto the balls of your feet. Or you can just, go up and down. You don't have to bend your knees in between. It's whether, if it's helpful for your pelvis and lower back, of course, do it. So a couple more times, coming forwards onto the balls of the feet. Coming back down, dropping the tailbone, wiggling the pelvis if you like. And then the next time you come up onto the balls of your feet, can you let your arms float up? So your arms are just coming up either side. I say either side of your head, but you want to let your shoulders drop. So we're balancing on the balls of our feet, we're taking our arms up, but letting the shoulders feel soft and light. And if you feel steady there, you could then let your arms come down so they're a bit wider, they're at shoulder height. And just see how it feels to balance there, a bit more like a sort of tightrope walker. Good. And then come down, give your legs a little shake out. And then we're going to do that same balance. But some of you remember this with this mudra, Hakini mudra. So what we're going to do is when you're balancing with your arms up, you're then over your head going to bring your hands into the mudra and then bring the hands down in front of you. So you probably remember this one. I think we did take us back to the last lockdown. I think we did this one quite a lot then, some of us. So when you're ready, bring your weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. So we're coming into that little balance. Then as we exhale, we're going to let the arms come up. And then it's this very interesting movement where we're touching the fingers and thumbs together. So the thumbs are meeting, index fingers meeting, middle fingers, ring fingers, little fingers, but we can't see them. Good. We try and let the shoulders drop as much as possible. And then we stay balancing as we bring our hands down in front of our chest. And I quite like in this one to keep my elbows going out to the sides, but you don't have to. With hands in front of the chest, we're still balancing if we can, still breathing. Very good. If you could manage another breath or two. Lovely. And then come down and have a little bit of a shake out. Now we're going to come into another couple of forward bends. I'm just going to give you a focus for the first one. So the first forward bend we go into, you're going to be focusing on the back of your body, starting with the back of your head, and I'll talk you through. Obviously hands on your thighs, Jan, if that's better. So as you start to go forwards, be aware of the back of your head, then the back of your neck, and then your upper back, your awareness traveling down through the back of your rib cage, through your lower back to the back of your pelvis, and then all the way down the backs of your legs, down to your heels. So our attention's very much in the back of our body. We can bend the knees as much as we like. Let the head go. Big exhalation. And then as you start to roll back up again, let your awareness again be in the back of the body. So the back of the legs, the pelvis, the lower back, all the way up to the back of the neck and the back of the head. So quite often we maybe focus on the back of the body in a forward bend. We're going to do another forward bend, and this time your focus is going to be in the front of your body. Again, starting with your head. Do give your legs a shake out if you want. So starting with the face. So as you start to go forwards in this forward bend, be aware of your face and let your face soften. And as you go further forwards, let your throat soften. Let the chest sort of curves in a little bit. So as we go forwards, this feeling of sort of curving in, the belly maybe falls back a little bit. The space between our chest and our thighs becomes smaller. Just how does it feel to have your awareness in the front of your body? So when you've closed up, and it might be if you bend your knees a lot that your chest comes very close to your thighs. Have an exhalation. And as we start rolling back up again or walking our hands up our thighs, just notice how the front of the body starts to open out. So we open in the front of the pelvis, the chest starts to widen, the head comes to settle good back on top of the spine. Very nice. Good. And then just have a little bit of shake out. And we're going to start working towards some other balances. And Jan, you might just do the beginning. See, you seem to be getting on well. So what I'd like you to do on your mat is to step the right foot forwards and We're just going to do a bit of this movement. So we've stepped the right foot forward. So you've still got your hip width sideways distance. And we're going to rock our weight forwards and back. So feeling your feet on the ground. So now we're coming into balances where we're going to be standing on one foot. And we're going to build it up and also approach it in some different ways. So first of all, I'd like you to shift all of your weight into your right foot, your front foot. And then you're just going to let your left leg swing a little bit. And so have a little bit of an experiment. Can you swing your left leg with the knee being, bending the knee, so a bit like you're kicking? And can you swing your left leg so it stays long and straight? And to be able to get our left leg off the floor, we have to shift our weight over towards the right a bit. Yeah? If it feels that our leg is too long. Good. So we can swing the leg by bending it. We can swing it by kicking it. Good. So the knee can be bent and the knee can be straight. Very nice. Okay. Come back down. Let's try the same thing on the other side. So come back to feet side by side and step your left foot forwards. And so first of all, again, we're doing this sort of forwards and back, shifting our weight into the front foot, shifting our weight into the back foot. Good. And then eventually let all of your weight come into your front foot and see how does it feel to swing the other leg. So we're trying to imagine our legs a bit like a pendulum, but it's also to get this sort of pendulum feeling of the leg being long and straight and hanging from the pelvis. Sometimes it's helpful to do the opposite and to kick and bend the knee. Good. Okay. Have a little shake out, and I'll just show you what we're going to do. So we're going to explore our warrior three in a couple of different ways. So first of all, and we're going to be having our hands in prayer pose. So first of all, we're going to come back to here, and we're going to come back to tilting our leg, swinging our leg, but keeping it straight. And a few times I just want you to see what's it like to tip forwards, to come back, to tip forwards. So we're just really thinking about moving into this. And Jan, this may be too much for you, and you might just want to have a not tip forwards, perhaps. So come back to your right foot forwards, and you can have your hands in prayer pose at your chest. So we're just keeping our hands in prayer pose to sort of take them out of the equation so we can really focus on our legs and our balance. So let your weight come all the way into your front foot, your right foot, keeping your left leg long and straight. Start to let the left leg swing back, and then your body tips forwards in response. And I'd like you to try this maybe 3 times. So you're not really trying to stay there. You're trying to catch that movement of your right leg tipping back and your body tipping forwards in response. So yeah, so maybe on the same side 3 times. And yeah, so what is that movement that we can catch as we let our leg tip up, we let our body tip forwards. And so often the challenge in this is not to go too far forwards with the body if the leg isn't coming up, because you know, we're so used to leading with our head and our eyes, and here we're trying to lead with our heel. Good. Come up and have a little shake out. We'll try the other side. So if you come back and maybe just stand for a moment with both feet side by side. Have an exhalation. Just settle yourself, feeling both feet on the floor. And then we'll step the left foot forwards and bring the hands into prayer pose. And then again, we can start to build this up. We can start to rock our weight into the back foot, into the front foot. We can then have all of our weight in our left foot. And can we come to this swinging movement of the right leg without bending the knee? And then we let the right leg tip back. And as that right heel comes up, we can then let our shoulders come down. That's it. So that's what we're trying to get, that feeling of the right heel coming up. And as that happens, the shoulders come down. So try that 3 times on your own, just sort of going into it and coming out and not really thinking about staying there. If you come into it and you think, wow, this is an amazing balance, I want to stay there, that's absolutely fine. Probably when we have the intention not to stay there, that's probably when we do the amazing balance. Wonderful. Good. And then, yes, have a little shake out, because we're then going to approach this balance in a slightly different way. And it might be quite good to have a forward bend, do a forward bend first. Jan, if you don't want to do a forward bend, don't. You might even want to go down into a squat. So depending how your lower back feels after that, come into a forward bend for a moment. If it's helpful for your back to come down into a squat, that might be quite nice. And obviously coming out, reversing the movement. So if you went into a squat, coming back into a forward bend. And from your forward bend, either walking your hands up your thighs or rolling up into standing. So we're going to come back to a very sort of similar, in the same pose, sort of slightly different way into it, but with our focus now on our breathing. So what I'd like you to do is feet side by side, step your right foot forwards, and you're going to bend that right knee now. And again, you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose at your breastbone. But what I'd like you to do now is to then focus in on your breathing before we take a foot off the floor. So here in standing, our front knee is bent, our right knee is bent, our back leg straight. We're trying to feel our breath. And then as we go on into the balance, we're trying to keep this steady focus and flow of our breath. And it might be that we lose it at certain crucial points, but we're trying to keep this steady focus on the breath. So from here, what I'd like you to do, and this is in slow motion, is to bring your weight onto your front bent knee and bend your back knee. So you're in this sort of funny, exaggerated runner position. And then as you keep breathing, you're going to start tipping forwards and reaching back with your back heel. And see if you can keep feeling the movement of your breath. Keep that focus with the flow of your breathing. Very nice, yes. And well done. You can come up, have a little shake out. Just prepare yourself for the second side. So stepping the left foot forwards. And so again, we're just taking this approach where we're bending the front knee, the back leg straight, our hands are coming into prayer pose. I've got my thumbs resting on my breastbone because that just helps me to feel a bit more steady. And then you're finding your breath here. So before you go any further, you're feeling a couple of cycles of breath. You're really connecting with that feeling of the breath within you as a sort of constant thread. And then as you start to move into the balance, so you're going to shift your weight onto that bent front knee, bend your back knee in this sort of exaggerated runner's position, and then keep the flow of the breath moving through you. Keep your awareness with the breathing as you start to reach back through your back heel. You start to let your shoulders tip forwards. Feeling the in-breath, feeling the out-breath. Wonderful, brilliant balances, everyone. Really lovely. So good. Come and have a little bit of a shake out. And then come towards the back of your mat. So we're going to make our way down now through forward bend, the last forward bend, Jan, probably read here. Forward bend, dog pose, and plank pose before we come down into child, and then we're going to do some more hands and knees things. So it'd be quite nice to bring your hands into prayer pose at the back of your mat. We can let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall. And then as you exhale, rounding down into a forward bend. So a couple of breaths in that forward bend, and then whenever you're ready, walking your hands forwards into dog pose. So have a few breaths in dog pose. Don't be in a rush. Probably not in a rush to get into plank pose. Don't be in a rush to go into plank pose. Good. Very nice. But when you do want to go on into plank, you probably want to walk your hands a little bit further forwards. So dog pose, to come into plank, we walk our hands a bit further forwards, and then it's that rocking our shoulders forwards. So our shoulders are over our wrists, but we're trying not to let our bottom sag down to the ground, our pelvis sag to the ground. We're trying to breathe in plank pose. And whenever we've had enough, then we're folding down into child pose. And at this point, if you're happier in kneeling or lying on your belly, you've got those other options. But if you're happy in child, then settle into child pose for a few cycles of breath. Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Let the weight of your body settle down onto the ground. You're got Heidi now there, Maria, your cat. So I was like to see all the cats. So from child pose, we're going to be coming back onto hands and knees, back into a little, seeing how our cat pose feels now, and back to a bit more tail wagging as well. And then we're going to be coming on into some thinking about opening out the front of the body a bit more. So when you're ready, come on to hands and knees, settle yourself on hands and knees. Come to rounding and dipping your spine. How does it feel to come back to cat? And after that last standing balance we did, perhaps you can make your breathing your focus here. So just feeling yourself exhaling, feeling yourself inhaling, letting your body move. But keeping very present with the flow of your breath within you. Maybe for 3 more cycles of breath. Receiving the in-breath, letting the out-breath leave. And it doesn't matter when you're rounding your back, when you're dipping your spine. But it often happens that if we start to focus on our breathing, we maybe start to coordinate the movement with the breath, and that's absolutely fine. And you can do a little bit more tail wagging if you like. So you can pause in the centre with your spine sort of quite neutral. Let your tail wag a little bit from side to side. And then if you need to, I want us to just start to see how it feels to go towards face up dog, but it might be that you just want to sit back on your heels and give your hands a little bit of a shake out first. So you could sit back and kneeling for a moment, give your hands a little shake out. And then when you come back onto hands and knees, come back into this longer hands and knees position. So the hands are further forwards than the shoulders, and go quite easily. So you don't necessarily need to go all the way into face up dog yet. Just how does it feel to start rocking the pelvis forwards, to start leaning our weight into our hands. And of course, if this feels really easy, then you can go as far as you like, but you don't have to. So perhaps a couple more times, this sort of little journey. And again, if you feel your hands are not quite in the right place, you can adjust them. And then we'll do a little bit more of this in a moment. But what I'd like you to do first of all is come into lunge on each side. So step 1 foot forwards into lunge. And you can then walk your back knee back a little bit. You want to make sure your front knee is over your front heel. You're giving your weight down to the floor. Your back toes can be tucked under or flat. And you can support yourself through your hands. And in this one, we're looking for that feeling of opening through the front of the back leg thigh. So another couple of breaths in your lunge on this side before we swap sides. Often good in lunge to use a big exhalation. Now, it's up to you. You could step into dog pose and then from dog pose into your other side of lunge. So just sort of see what you want to do. So from lunge, if you like, you could tuck your toe under, step back into dog pose, and then as you exhale, step the other foot into lunge. Or you could move into lunge from hands and knees. So it just really depends what feels best for you this evening. So coming, that's it, into lunge with your other foot forwards and having a few breaths there. So again, remember your back toes can be tucked under, your back toes can be flat. We've got this lovely feeling of opening through the front of the back leg thigh, the front of the pelvis. I'm just trying to talk to keep us here a bit longer. And again, it might be nice to have a bit of a lengthen out in dog again after this lunge. So again, you could step into dog from lunge, or you could come onto hands and knees and then have a little lengthen out in dog. And just see how dog pose feels now. So we're sort of doing dog a little bit later than we sometimes do in class. We've done a few dog poses, so maybe it's starting to feel enjoyable. Can we let the shoulders soften? That's looking good. The shoulders are looking nice and soft. Good, very nice. We've got some nice bent knees. Very good. From this dog, just sit down into kneeling for a moment. So if you're not so comfortable in kneeling and you have a cushion to hand, you can always pop a cushion under the tops of your feet or between your heels and your bottom. Yeah, so these things might help a little bit. And in kneeling, if you put your hands on the side of your pelvis, can you do these sort of cat-like movements in kneeling? We can roll the pelvis back and we can look down at our belly. So our back rounds out, and we can roll the pelvis forwards and look up a little bit more. And our belly comes forwards, front of our body sort of rounds out. And just do these perhaps once or twice more so you can find your neutral place where you're not doing either of these movements. Our spine is nice and lovely and long, and then we can come into a kneeling twist. So you're turning towards one way. So I'm turning towards the right. Got my right hand resting on my left hand resting on my right thigh, the right fingertips on the floor behind me. Lovely. Let the shoulders drop as much as possible, particularly the back shoulder. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Looks very nice, trying to feel long and tall. Come back to the center and then turn the other way. So the front hand comes to rest on the opposite thigh. The back hand either rests on the back of your pelvis or the fingertips on the floor. Very nice. Let the breath come in. As the breath leaves you, drop your shoulders down away from your ears. So we're going to come back onto hands and knees now. You might like to come onto hands and knees and lengthen each leg out behind you. And then we're going to come back into our face up dog. And you've got a few options. So you could come back to just what we were doing, which is just rocking our pelvis forwards. So obviously come back to having your hands a bit further forwards. So you could see how it feels to come in, just like rocking your pelvis forwards. And then we've got that rather nice way of going into face up dog where we do our tail wagging. So we can start to wiggle our pelvis side to side back into child. And we can start to swing our pelvis forward side to side into face up dog. So we're sort of doing this snaky sort of movement from side to side, which can be a sort of nice way of sneaking ourselves into face up dog. And we can also do a sort of cat type movement into face up dog, which we do more often. So if you're doing the cat movement, you're on your long hands and knees, you're tucking your toes under, you're rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels, letting the breath come in, and then as you exhale, you're rounding your back to the ceiling and staying rounded as you travel forwards, looking back at your belly until that's it, your shoulders are over your hands, you untuck your toes. And we're trying to fill all this space between our ears and our shoulders. So we could do that one once more, rounding back, toes tucked under, letting the breath come in, exhaling, rounding forwards, watching the pelvis come forwards until our shoulders are right over our hands. Good. And then let yourself rock all the way back into child pose for a couple of breaths. Very nice. Lovely. Lovely face up dog, it's really nice. So in child pose, maybe let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then once again, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then you're going to slither forwards so you're lying on your belly. And so when you come to slither forwards and lie on your belly, you could start with one hand on top of the other and your forehead resting on the back of your hands. And then you can start with giving your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So a bit like we did when we were standing up. So that's it, on your belly, one hand on back at the back of the other, giving your pelvis a wiggle, and then settling on your belly. And then the other thing you can do, which some of us quite like, is to, on our bellies, bend the knees, take the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. That's it, very nice feet, everyone. And then, so I think we did this last week, start to let your feet tilt to the right and to the left. Very nice. And obviously, if your lower back doesn't like this, you can try having your feet a bit lower down, nearer to the floor, or you just don't do it. Lovely. Okay. So maybe once, twice more with the feet, and then bring the legs back to rest on the floor. And just give the weight of the legs down to the ground. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then we're going to see how it feels to do some movements where we're lifting the head, and obviously the chest lifts a little bit. So we're going to keep it quite easy to start with. So letting a breath come in, as you exhale, you're going to sink down into your forearms and your hands and lift your head off the back of your hands. Good. And do this a few times. That's it. So you're not necessarily going particularly high, you're just doing what feels quite easy. As you exhale, sinking into the elbows and the forearms, lifting your head up The chest may or may not lift, but I suppose the most important thing here is that we feel that our upper back is taking part in this movement. It's not just a movement for the head and the neck, but actually the muscles in the upper back, good, are getting involved in this movement. And do this once or twice more. Very nice. And then just fold back into child pose for a moment, because I want us to do another movement on our belly, but it might be good just to have a couple of breaths in child pose first. So come back into, sit back into child pose. Gives your lower back just a chance to lengthen out. So when we're lying on our belly and we're lifting up, the muscles in the back of the body are working. When we come into child pose, the muscles in the back of the body are much more passive. And the muscles in the back, yeah, are sort of lengthening out, but in a passive way. Okay, just thinking, is it going to be useful now? I think I can talk you into this. So I think come back and lie on your belly again. But this time you're going to have your hands standing on the floor beneath your shoulders. So lie on your belly and have your hands standing on the floor. So your elbows come off the floor now, but your hands are on the floor, just below your shoulders, and your forehead's on the ground. And so what I'd like you to try to find is a little sort of side to side movement. So you press, you keep your forehead on the ground, but you let your forehead roll. So you press first into your right hand and you let your head roll to the right. And then you press into your left hand and let your head roll to the left. So see if you can find that little sort of side to side rolling movement as you press into one hand and then the other. Good, that's nice. Lovely. Yeah, so this is a really good movement. That looks beautiful, everyone. Really good movement for getting us moving in the upper back. It also prepares us for cobra. So from pressing into one hand, pressing into the other, rolling across our forehead, we can then see what's it like to press into both hands as we exhale and let the head and maybe the chest come away from the floor. And then we come back down again and do a bit more rolling from side to side. So I'd like you to do that sort of 3 times in total. The rolling from side to side, and then you intersperse it with pressing into both hands and coming up that's into, it's interesting, when you come up into cobra, it's not face up dog. So I can't quite see Nicola, but when you come into cobra, your pubic bone stays on the floor. So in face up dog, our pelvis is hanging, but in cobra, which is a bit more tricky, the pelvis stays on the floor. So the elbows probably stay bent, and you don't necessarily go up very far. But yes, if you're wondering about the distinction, yeah, good. Okay, good. So that's where we distinguish our cobra from face up dog, is that the pubic bone makes contact with the floor, our elbows probably stay bent. And we try and gather our elbows into the sides of our body rather than let them wing out. Very nice. And so some people, you know, this movement, yes, well done, Jan, you're doing very well, given, given everything. Good, very nice. Maria, I wonder whether your hands need to be a bit further back. I can't quite see where they are in relation to your shoulders. Yeah, it might be good, try one more with your hands slightly further back. So there is always this thing with cobra about where do we have our hands? And quite often it's further back than we think. Yes, that looks quite nice. And then I think that's probably enough cobra. What I would like you to do now is to roll onto your back. So from lying on your belly, roll onto your back and just see what you would like to do when you roll onto your back. So roll onto your back and just, yeah, be led by your body. Yes, Beata, hugging your knees into your chest is probably going to be a popular option. So roll onto your back. You don't have to hug your knees into your chest, but I think yes, and exactly, hugging your knees into your chest, a little bit of rocking. You might find you like to, if you've hugged your knees into your chest and you've done a little bit of rocking, you might then like to take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. That's it, yes, very nice. What also might be nice is sort of halfway between the two. So you could do a little bit of happy baby. So whichever order you'd be pleased to hear. So happy baby, we orientate the soles of our feet towards the ceiling. Our knees are wide apart and bent. And then we catch a hold of our big toes or our ankles. And we rock side to side. So it's sort of halfway between taking the legs up and folding the knees into the chest. Knees wide apart. That's it. So we can rock from side to side. Doesn't matter where you hold your feet. Hold wherever. You could be holding your, your shins behind your knees. That's it. But it can just be that's it, nice rocking place. That's it. Good. Okay. And then when you're ready, we're going to come and settle. Maybe just lengthen both legs out on the floor for a moment. And then we're going to settle with the knees bent and the feet standing on the floor. Yes, we can put, yes, you can put, be honest, if you want to, we're going to do a few sort of lying down, twisting, rocking things. But if you want to put on socks or jumpers or anything warm, now is a good time. If you've got a blanket, just have it to hand and then you won't need to get up again. Until tomorrow morning. So settle down on your backs with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And the very first thing I'd like you to do once you're settled in that position is just come to letting your head roll to the right and to the left. So easing your head from side to side. And from rolling your head to the right and to the left. And then find a comfortable position to settle the back of your head on the floor. The centre of the back of your head. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then bringing your awareness down to your pelvis and your legs, you're going to start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So as we did near the beginning of class. So it's always interesting to come back to movements later on that we did earlier. See how, yes, that's nice, Jan, that looks easier. Good, see how they feel now. So a couple more times, let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then we're going to do a movement for the upper body. So a twisting movement for the upper body. So if it's comfortable to lie with your legs long, it's quite a good idea now. So we can just leave the lower body sort of out of the equation. But you can lie with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor if that's better for your back. So you're going to take your arms up towards the ceiling and then touch your hands together in prayer pose over your chest. So important things here, the elbows stay straight, the hands stay stuck together. And just reminding myself, we didn't do this last week, did we? Yes, elbows straight, hands stuck together. We've made a triangle with our arms, and now we're going to start to rock side to side across our upper back. So keeping our hands stuck together, keeping our elbows straight. Start to rock your weight towards the back of your right shoulder, the back of your left shoulder. That's it. Very nice. Yeah, beautiful. Really well done. And just keep an eye on what's going on. If you find your arms are going a really long way, your hands might be sliding or one elbow might be bending. And what we're trying to do is really mobilize the vertebrae in the upper spine, which is why we're trying to not let the hands slide or the elbows bend. So a couple more times, to the right, to the left. And then let that go. Let the arms come to rest on the floor beside you. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to bend your knees once more, bring your feet to stand on the floor. Come back a few times to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Good. Just pause for a minute in the centre. Keep your knees bent, then come back to the one we did at the beginning of class where you give yourself a hug with your arms only. So crossing your arms over your chest. That's it. And now you let the elbows and the head and the knees all rock in the same direction, from side to side. That's it, lovely. So again, we come back to this feeling of giving ourselves a bit of a massage across the back of our body. Lovely. Really nice. And then from here, whenever you're ready, if you feel like you want to change the cross of your arms and rock a bit with the other arm on top, you can do if you're concerned about being unbalanced. Otherwise, whenever you're ready, we're going to then settle down under our blanket and just finish with a little bit of quiet breathing. And I might find a short poem to read to you. So this is the time to put your blankets on. You can lie with your knees bent, your legs long. Again, you might want to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. So I'm going to read you a short poem by Ryokan, the Zen monk, Zen Japanese monk. I'm trying to think, see when he was writing 18th century Japan. And these poems are very much just capturing a moment as when we lie and settle. We just want to be where we are right now. Winter in the 11th month. Snow falls thick and fast. 1,000 mountains, one colour. Men of the world passing this way are few. Dense grass conceals the door. All night in silence, a few wood chips burn slowly as I read the poems of the ancients. So there's no rush. You can just carry on lying under your blanket, wherever you are. And thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording. If you want a little chat, you can unmute yourselves.